All right, Jabu Xaba, Southern African Miners Association, SADC Region Chairperson and President, joins us now to discuss this. A very good evening to you, sir. Thank you so very much for giving us your time.
Good evening, ma'am, and also good evening to the viewers at home.
All right, let's start here. You're welcome. Let's start here. What makes you say that there's no political or government will to ensure that ex-mine workers are compensated from injury and illness? And I want to talk more. I'd like you to tell us more, in fact, about what we heard in that clip earlier about the fact that this lack of compensation sort of puts miners in the situation of chicken and egg. I'd like an expansion on that example that was given.
Thanks a lot, Slow. Let me put things into context.
Yeah.
Here you have got a role expected to be played by provincial and local government, and I can underscore the serious weight lifting from the part of the provincial government, Eastern Cape, to extension, Northwest. Mpumalanga is coming on board. Free State is coming on board. But the reality here is that the compensation, particularly for occupational injuries and diseases, is a responsibility of national government. That's where we see complete lack of will. I'll give you a classical example. For occupational disease compensation pertaining to lung diseases, issues around silicosis, pneumonocosis, mesothelioma, from the then asbestos mining undertaking. You have got a situation where we have got a piece of legislation, or DIMWA, for instance, which is administered by the National Department of Health. You have got the body established to this effect, which is Mining Bureau of Occupational Diseases, commonly known as MPOTCCOD. The current legislation of DIMWA empowers MPOD to collect levies from mining industry for potential cases of occupational disease. But the tragedy is that the same piece of legislation, and it's known, as we speak, you've got a dragging process to amend this legislation, very dragging, is that as much as they're empowered to collect levies, which is mining industry is busy paying levies on an annual basis to this particular fund, but the very same board is not empowered by the same legislation to use this money to find us and test us. Now, practically, I can't be compensated for instance, silicosis without being found and tested. Then in this case, if the body that is entrusted legislatively with this responsibility can't find me, it's not a resource to find me, it's not a resource to test me, how are they going to pay me?
I get that.
That's a classical example of it. That we're talking about.
And
it's not it's practically known. As I've said, you have got a drag process for amendment to this effect. In fact, even that one is very long overdue, because this problem has been known for ages and for years.
Yeah, you say that this problem has been known for years and for ages, and that several people, might not even be aware that they are in fact entitled to such compensation. But surely this is where you come in as an association. I mean, I would assume that the ex-mine workers don't have the financial backing, they don't have the resources, don't have the platforms where they're able to vocalize what is happening. Isn't that where you're supposed to step in? If government is having this, let's say, fair sort of approach, surely this is where you should challenge and step in on behalf of these mine workers. What sort of engagements then are you having? You're saying this lies solely with the government. Are you having those conversations and talks with government on behalf of these ex-mine workers? Because surely there's someone else that needs to pick up and fight for them.
Surely, out of the advocacy work that we've been doing this summer, the reason we do have the interventions at a provincial government level. To give an example, Eastern Cape, with the provincial steering committee for ex-mine worker intervention program, spearheaded by the Premier of the province, again at operational levels led by the MEC for Health, which is a steering job since 2019, for instance. We have been able to what you call it, the outreaches and so as to find ex-mine workers and enable MPOD to pay them. But remember, this is just an intervention undertaking. Now, when it comes into the national government, there have been endeavors. For instance, there's been a ministerial task team engagement this year, February, thanks to the then minister in the presidency, Mr. Motikungubel, who did serious lifting in this particular regard so as to help us to elevate and lift this to the attention of the responsible ministers, Special Minister of Health and Minister of Labour. But as I've said, it's another thing to have the state engagement going on. But if that is not echoed by political will, then we'll start to have a problem. We'll have a drag in it. So that doesn't mean that we're not lobbying the state, we're doing. But we would like to see political will. Let our leaders show leadership. Let them demonstrate leadership. This affects an African child, and this is long overdue.
Mr. Xaba, are we likely to see in the end some sort of action, maybe a class action suit on behalf of the ex-mine workers? I mean, when we're dealing with a situation where the legislation is there, but there's no implementation of it, then we're clearly talking about a situation where the laws are there, but that people are not protected. There's no justice coming out of those laws, which is problematic on its own, which then becomes sometimes even a human rights issue. So are we likely to see a class action suit, which we've seen quite a few of throughout the African continent, where mine workers or ex-mine workers have actually sort of come together and claimed in such a way?
In fact, to reflect on that, you would recall you have got institutions, for instance, now, like your Chairperson Trust, which is an outcome of a particular class action that was spearheaded by our good self. The likes of your Charles Abrams, Advocate, Richard Sport, and so forth. For them to pursue that case, they have engaged us. It emanated from the march that we had in 2008 to union buildings as ex-mine workers. But the reality is, as for the viewers, is that becomes the last resort. Government is our government. There's no need for us to drag government to court and so forth. So our approach, Sam, is that we have got to respect a compact approach in this, which is in this case a social compact approach. Goes off the view that our government, this is our government. But as you noted, if anything doesn't pull, that's the last resort. And it's an option that is available to our good selves. As we speak, we're contemplating doing so. But it becomes difficult. You have got our provinces coming to party, engaging us and put their hand on this. But now, somehow, and you would recall that government is just one body. So the distinction between province and national to our people is actually superficial. Government is government. But it becomes very challenging to us as leadership. You would have a province like, for instance, in Cape, you have got a serious weightlifting from the state, practical interventions being put in place. But the very same province has been locked down by national department. I'll make an example again, even at national level. From the minister's office, there's been an effort to also tap into the global fund resource through the Tip in the Mines program. So from one point, you could see that there's a coming to party, but from another point, there's a dragging. And this talks to political will. If you would have our leadership having this thing in the pulse of their hand, there's a lot that we can do. For instance, there's been an appointment of the 3 deputy ministers led by the Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Dlomo, and all that. That process was initiated based on our plea and our advocacy. We had a very robust meeting in Quebec last year, beginning of the year last year, which resulted in them being appointed. But it's another thing, them being appointed, having the instruments of legislation in place. But when it comes into us doing the right thing, there's a drag.
Yeah. All right.
And that's very challenging.
Okay. Point well made, yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
All right, so Mr.
I'm saying, as I said, we're contemplating, as we speak,
all right,
very, very extensively going for litigation.
All right, Mr. Xaba, thanks. Let's leave it there. Jabu Xaba is the Southern African Miners Association SADC Region Chairperson and President.